moving forward, it is going to be so easy for others to, focus on wanting to manipulate our minds. Like before, we might have experienced, people going to war over physical land. Now people will be going to war over our minds.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Self-awareness is a superpower. My name is KathyLaDonna. Welcome to Soul and Vibration. I hope the free thinkers are doing well. And if you are not doing well, I'm happy to remind you that you are the most powerful person that you know. You are the most powerful person that you know because only you can create your reality. In this video, I want to talk about a couple things, and I know that they will all come together where you guys are able to see my point in the end. First of all, I want to touch on this whole cancel culture that we're living in. Cancel culture makes me nervous because it reminds me of everything that I talked about in that video that I made about why you are the scapegoat. If you grew up in a toxic or narcissistic environment, or not even grow up in it, maybe you experienced one with your friends at school or your workplace or whatnot, you might realize how easy it is for one person to be able to turn everybody else against another person, and how as people we can get so emotionally involved to where we're not even thinking for ourselves, where we might dislike someone or a group of people and don't even really know why we dislike them. With cancel culture going on and it being such a big thing, and the people taking justice in their hands and canceling people who they believe that we should no longer hear from, whenever I think about it, I understand both sides of it. I understand the people's need to take justice into their own hands. And I also see the part of it where we are basically giving our freedom away with that whole cancel culture. Because what we might not realize is that, the media is owned by, I think, basically a very, very small percentage decides the information that all of us see as a collective. And it's sad to say, but as humans, some of us are going to manipulate information according to our own best interests, according to who's, funding the information and who's putting more money in our pockets. So it sucks that a lot of the times the information that we consume is being manipulated for the greater good of whoever is funding it. That's something that brings a thought up that me and my uncle was having a conversation about science, and he was just going on and on and on and on saying, Kathy, follow the science, Kathy. And I believe in science. I am a huge fan of science. Without science, we would not be able to connect with each other through these devices. I wouldn't be able to express myself to you. But I'm also aware of the fact that science could be used to control and manipulate people, in the sense that, at one point science used to say that cigarettes were good for our health. Doctors smoked and they prescribed cigarettes for pregnant women and all different kind of issues. And even they created apple flavored cigarettes for children. And even though someone's common sense at the time may say, when I'm in a room with people who are smoking, I feel like I'm choking, I feel short of breath, I'm feeling these different things. Maybe I'm noticing that I'm getting anxiety from the cigarette smoke. But, what I'm feeling isn't valid because science says it's good, because doctors are prescribing it. My point for saying that is basically, a lot of the times we don't pay attention that whoever is funding the science and whatever their narrative is what's going to determine the outcome of it. So going back to the media and news outlets and things like that, a lot of the times it's the funding and the narrative of whoever is pushing the message, like that's going to determine the information that we consume. So a lot of the times we can be manipulated to feel a certain way about people and don't even know why we feel this way about them. So we run around and we cancel this, we cancel that. And a lot of the times we're not coming from a place of personal experience and research, looking into a thing and understanding why it no longer serves us as a whole. We're operating like puppets where someone else is pulling our strings based on our emotions. And a lot of the times too, with the whole cancel culture thing that we don't pay attention to is a lot of the times, like as humans, if we are unaware of ourselves, sometimes we might be angry at a group of people or an individual, maybe because we feel like they're too privileged or life comes to them too easy, and low key, we might be jealous. And because of the jealousy is the reason why we want to end them, or we don't want to see anything good happen to them, because we might feel like, you know, for years, the average person has been overlooked, and you know, now finally these people are getting what they deserve, and you hate them, but you don't know why you hate them. And possibly it's the jealousy and the tension that they get. But, you know, we don't get to take the time to look at ourselves and look at what's happening underneath the whole surface of it all. So again, a lot of the times, you know, instead of paying attention to, you know, those hidden emotions and different things that we have happening within us, we basically escape our own like issues and things that needs addressing, and then project it into the world, and you know, jump in these groups and get ready to like war against people who we don't even know. Like I remember personally, I had an experience where someone stole my work and I confronted them, and she threatened me to send her 100,000 followers on Instagram, threatened to send them at me, to basically in a story let them know that I'm bothering her or whatever, and threatened to send them after me and whatnot. And in that moment, I'm like, wow, all these people who are following or supporting this person don't even know that she looks at them as things, like looks at them in a way where she could just use them to do her dirty work, and they wouldn't even know the difference because of how they feel about this person. They will just, you know, a lot of them will just go guns blazing. But I told her, hey, send them, because they might like what they see over here, and some of them might think for themselves and realize what's really going on. Long story short, I got her to take my stuff down. It, you know, without making any threats or doing whatever, basically with just using my head and getting her to take my stuff down. I'm not even going to get into that. But anyways, like what inspired this video is the major conjunction that we have coming up on December 21st, which is also the winter solstice. So the conjunction is happening in Aquarius, and this is going to be between Saturn and Jupiter. So say Saturn and Jupiter is like this moving in the sky. And then the conjunction is when they're like at 0 to 10 degrees apart. So from Earth distance, while we're looking up at the planets, they're going to look like they're one in the sky. And Aquarian energy, I think Aquarian energy is extremely important. I mean, all the energies are important, but with everything I've said leading up to this point, Aquarian energy is the kind of energy that exists within all of us. It's the part of us where we feel overlooked. Like depending on the house that you might have Aquarius in or whatnot, like you'll understand this energy a lot more. But Aquarian energy within us is the part of us that feels overlooked. It's the part of us where we might rebel for the sake of rebelling, and the part of us where we don't like to feel controlled. We don't like to feel we don't like responsibilities to a certain extent. It's the part of you where you want to be free. And based on personal experiences in your life, you have learned that the best way to get recognitions is through serving others, is through your own good deeds. And Aquarian energy is a conflicting energy in the sense that you will feel the responsibility for the collective, even though you feel misunderstood and overlooked by these same people. And the responsibility comes from Saturn, the first ruler of Aquarius. It comes from Saturn. Saturn also rules over Capricorn. So Saturn and Jupiter will be in the sign of Aquarius, making a conjunction on the 21st. So Saturn is at home in Aquarius. It's like the parent going to spend time with their child. Of Saturn's two children, your Aquarius and Capricorn, Aquarius is the child that basically represents fixed air. Aquarius is an air sign, but Aquarius is more than an air sign, even though Aquarius is an air sign for the simple fact that it's the water bearer that shows the emotional side to the Aquarian energy and how Aquarius actually carries its emotion. Aquarian energy has to do with groups, the small groups that we associate ourselves with, and we associate ourselves with these groups because they support our beliefs. They support the way we see ourselves in the world and the way we understand ourselves, and they support those things that make us unique. So with Saturn going into Aquarius, again, Saturn is at home in Aquarius. But at the same time, even though Saturn is at home in Aquarius, Saturn energy is all about limitation. It's about time. It's about discipline. It's about karma. It's about responsibility. So when Saturn goes into Aquarius, basically for the next 2.5 or 2 years or so, and don't forget to check out my video about Saturn in Aquarius. I'll put the link in the description box below. So when Saturn goes into Aquarius, basically this is going to break down structures that no longer works for us when it comes to our communities. When it comes to, I say community in the sense that the groups that we associate ourselves with. It's going to basically bring our attention to karma. And karma to me is learned behavior, in the sense that karma is, as a child, you were taught good or bad. You were taught what was accepted, what was unaccepted. You were taught what was, what behavior will be rewarded and what behavior should be punished. So as children, just by our parents' reaction to us and the way they communicate and the way, just even nonverbal cues about our behavior, that told us what actions were good and what were bad. So after a while, instead of being punished by our parents, we learn to punish ourselves. If we do something that we may perceive as good behavior, we subconsciously and sometimes consciously expect to be rewarded. So of course we project that into the universe and attract that energy towards ourselves. And in cases where we perceive something to be bad behavior, then we project that into the universe and we project our own punishment onto ourselves because we expect it. And that's why you're the most powerful person that you know, because you create your reality, whether it's the kind of reality that you don't want to live in or the kind of reality that you do want to live in. So Saturn is shaking up our groups, the groups that we associate ourselves with. It's bringing our attention to karma, having to do with how we may have neglected these groups in the past or the decisions that we have made as a group. And then Jupiter going in there. So Jupiter is not at home like Saturn is at home inside of Aquarius. So when Jupiter goes in there, Jupiter is going to amplify for us basically all the things that I've mentioned. So Jupiter might amplify and bring luck and opportunity to the decisions that we've made as a collective and how we've, stuck together. Or Jupiter might amplify the negativity that might be present, the pain and struggle and whatever it is that we may have felt like we've experienced when it comes to groups. Because, you know, some of us might find that we don't like groups because maybe as children, group situations made us feel powerless. Maybe it started off in our household where being the black sheep, everyone tends to turn against you. So whenever you see yourself in a group, you feel like it's just a matter of time before people are turned against you and you're the odd man out. So when Jupiter conjuncts Saturn, it's like the Jupiter energy is like a magnifying energy, amplifying everything to do with Aquarian energy, humanitarianism, like I've mentioned, group efforts, like I mentioned, being in the shadow, feeling overlooked, you know, all of those things Jupiter will amplify. So it's like it's either it will amplify and we pay attention to the good or we pay attention to the bad. But at the end of the day, we are the ones creating our reality. And one thing that stands out to me the most is a 0-degree conjunction. So the number 0, like the letter O to me, is a perfect example of ending and a beginning. It shows that an ending is the beginning, and there's always a reason to celebrate because the ending is the beginning. And 0 also is the karmic egg. In numerology, the number 0 represents pure potential, pure possibilities. So the conjunction of the planet is something that is neutral, but it is up to us to project into that karmic egg, into that energy, and manifest whatever it is that we want to manifest into the world. Like as people, if we want to contribute to this world in a positive way and help to the best of our abilities, the best thing that we could do is to work on ourselves as individuals, work on how we see ourselves in this world and the energy that we are putting out into this world. Because back to the whole cancel culture thing, if we don't know ourselves and we are unaware of our own emotions and lack empathy, we lack empathy. So when we lack empathy, we lack self-awareness. And without self-awareness, we don't have the ability to take accountability for our actions and grow. So if we lack accountability and we are living in the shadow aspect of Aquarian energy, where basically we feel overlooked, we feel like the outcast, and it's almost like Lilith energy minus Lilith being violated. Lilith energy in the sense that Lilith was violated, and instead of her getting attention and care for everything she's been through, she was turned into the villain when really she was the victim. Where Aquarian energy feels like villainized for no reason, just for them being themselves. You know, so it's important for us to pay attention to the part of ourselves where we feel villainized just for being ourselves, where it is unacceptable for us being ourselves. Like all of this will be amplified when the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction is made, because Jupiter is bringing higher mind energy into this, amplifying this area of our lives. And it is up to us to see things in a positive and optimistic way and manifest more of that into our reality, or it is up to us to see it in a negative way and manifest more negativity and darkness into our world. With Saturn going into Aquarius and Jupiter also being there for the conjunction, I can't help but to think about like basically different underground systems falling apart and some being formed all at the same time, especially if we are destroying things from a negative place. Of course, something else is going to take that form, but it's also going to be of that same negative energy, but appear to be positive to us looking at it, you know, because with Aquarian energy, the reason why Aquarian energy brings darkness is because opposed to Aquarius is Leo. And Leo is on the opposite side of Aquarius, and the sun is with Leo. So with the sun with Leo, Aquarian energy is left in complete darkness. So that's where Leo energy gets recognized just for being, where Aquarian energy gets recognized for actually doing. So with Saturn going in and breaking down these groups, like just like how Saturn was in Capricorn energy, the 10th house, a lot of us realized that we hated our jobs, our careers, and certain aspects of it. And Saturn helped us to be honest with ourselves when it comes to the way how we are providing for ourselves and the legacies that we took on in the world. And again, Saturn energy brings karma. So it's like we realize that, I didn't really want to be a lawyer or I didn't want to be a doctor. It's just that I thought that it would be socially acceptable for me to take on this role because this is what my parents wanted for me. But Saturn going in Capricorn, where it was for the last 2.5 years or so, and, creating that whole demolition energy, like that completely helped us to take a look at our legacies in a totally different way and how we will provide for ourselves and our family. So now when Saturn moves into Aquarius energy, that's also what is being broken down. And how we are going to break down a lot of these systems is through cancel culture. And that's why I mentioned cancel culture in the beginning of this video. And cancel culture, it can be beneficial, but it can be dangerous in the sense that you are closing something down or rebelling against something, not because of your own research or personal experience. You're doing this because you were manipulated to do this. So if this is how we break down old ways, like of course new ways are being formed in with the same exact kind of energy. So we're getting the illusion of change when really change just went underground. It's like with slavery. Slavery never ended. It just turned into trafficking. It just went underground. It never completely ended. So with self-awareness, and us taking accountability of ourselves, that's how we're able to change things in the world fully. But if we look outside of ourselves and blame everyone and everything for our current reality and the way things is, it's like, of course, we're going to create more and more of that. And it's like living in a world of insanity where we're doing the same things over and over and over again and expecting a different result. At the time of the conjunction, I think Pluto will be within like 8 degrees from the conjunction. So with Pluto being there, of course, we can expect death, rebirth of everything that has to do with our communities. Communities in the sense that the groups that we associate ourselves with, humanitarianism. And at the same time with Pluto being there, you can expect manipulation, mind games having to do with these things. And that's why it's important to think for yourself, question things for yourself, and don't allow others to just convince you what it is that you should be for and what you should go against. You should always ask yourself, what can I learn from both sides? How does this make me feel? And base your decision based on how it makes you feel genuinely, how it makes you feel. How does it affect you? How does it affect the collective? Because moving forward, it is going to be so easy for others to, focus on wanting to manipulate our minds. Like before, we might have experienced, people going to war over physical land. Now people will be going to war over our minds. Yes, people will be going, and when I say people, I mean different organizations and different organizations and corporations and things like that. They're going to be going to war over who can have access to our minds, who can sell us information to get us to do whatever it is that they want us to do. So that's why it is so important for us to think for ourselves. In the beginning, when it comes to the conjunction, there will be a square between Uranus in Taurus, and Jupiter and Saturn conjunction. So Uranus is also a ruler of Aquarian energy. And with Uranus and Taurus, we're going to be experiencing sudden and unexpected changes when it comes to our foundation, our financial system, the material world, how we do business in the material world, how we operate on this earth and different things like that. So the conjunction having to do with the groups and the communities that we associate ourselves with, our ability to help the collective, and also Aquarian energy having to do with our minds, it's like basically there'll be a huge shift when it comes to how we utilize our mind, the internet, and physical spaces. Uranus energy also rules over, like I mentioned, also rules over Aquarius, and that has to do with the internet, you know, the higher mind. So with all this happening, we will realize that there will be a huge shift in how we operate within the physical world and the environment around us, and how we use our mind and the internet. But most important is basically the manipulation and the war that will happen over our minds, and who gets to basically pour information into our heads. It's important not to be a jarhead where you're just sitting there and allowing other outside sources to just pour information within you and basically control the way how you make decisions and things like that. Also, moving forward, Aquarian energy for me, you know, again, it having to do with the shadow side, the shadow aspects of this world, because the sun is in Leo in the opposite sign, leaving Aquarian energy in complete darkness. I think about UFO and aliens and extraterrestrial type energy. With Saturn being there, breaking that down, and even Jupiter energy being there, a lot will come out about the truth when it comes to extraterrestrial activities and things like that. We'll start to embrace our own thoughts and our own realities a lot more, because we'll start to realize that, yes, just because something happens in my mind that someone else can't relate to doesn't mean that it's not real. I feel like for a very long time, they have convinced us to think that way so that we wouldn't expand on this physical and non-physical realm that we live in. It's almost like a closed door that stopped us from venturing on out of fear of being called crazy and our needs for validation. But Saturn going in there, we will find that like a lot of what we were taught when it comes to parallel universes and this earth that we live on having to do with Uranus and Taurus, like we'll find that there's a lot of truth and untruth that was being told. Truth from maybe what we call conspiracy, you know, profiles and people sharing their views and experience, and untruth from, you know, the overall general information that we have been fed, that we were taught to call a fact. For me, a fact is a collective agreement. And depending on whoever's funding it and their narrative, like that will have a lot of control on, you know, the stories that are told. So it's important for us to trust ourselves and think for ourselves, you know. I tried not to make this video so long. There's still so much that I have to say, but you know, being respectful, trying not to make it so long. If you guys are still here with me, please drop me a purple heart in the comment box below and share your views or your thoughts or whatever. You know, I had a thought or whatever, and I just wanted to ramble on and vent and share with you guys my thoughts. I would love to hear from you.
Love yourself as if your life depended on it, because it does. Take care of yourself, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.